My phone buzzed at 6 in the evening while I was out in the backyard, pruning my rose bushes. It was a notification from my bank app. With my hands still stained with soil, I swiped across the screen and completely froze. The savings account I had labeled France, the one I'd been diligently pouring money into for the last 2 years, showed a balance of just $24. There was exactly $4,500 missing. My mind immediately did that automatic, frantic math that happens when you know something is terribly wrong. I opened up the transaction history. There it was, clear as day. Branch withdrawal, Meredith Vance. My own daughter. Meredith had been listed as a joint owner on that account for years. It was a purely practical decision I made back when I had knee surgery, just in case I ever needed her to handle a banking errand for me. She had never touched it. Until today, I washed my hands slowly at the kitchen sink. The ice-cold water helped me clear my head. I didn't scream. I didn't throw my phone against the wall. I just grabbed my car keys and drove straight over to Meredith's house. When I walked in, she was in the kitchen, unboxing a package from a high-end department store. When she saw me, she flashed one of those practiced, rehearsed smiles, the kind she always used when she knew she'd crossed a line but expected me to let it slide for the sake of family peace. "Mom, what a surprise," she said, quickly sliding the box out of sight. "There is $4,500 missing from my savings account," I said, getting straight to the point without raising my voice. Meredith sighed, looking at me as if I were the one being irrational. "I was just about to call and tell you. I needed the money for Beverly's birthday gift." Beverly was her mother-in-law. She was a woman entirely obsessed with status and appearances. And Meredith was forever turning herself inside out, trying to please her. "You plundered my savings to buy a gift for your mother-in-law," I asked, keeping my eyes locked on hers. "It's a Mediterranean cruise. Mom, Greg and I wanted to make a big impression on his family. Besides, you and Hazel aren't even going to France until next year. You have plenty of time to save that money back up." I didn't give her a lecture. I didn't argue. I just stood there and listened to her empty justifications. "You've got time, Mom," she repeated, smiling as if she were doing me a favor. I gave a tight, quiet nod. I turned around and walked out the door. Meredith probably thought I was going to swallow the pill in silence just to avoid a family drama. What she didn't know was that the second I got home, I was going to open my laptop to cancel something much, much bigger. Back home, I flipped open my laptop. The glow of the screen illuminated the dark living room. Right there on the desktop was a folder labeled Meredith's Anniversary. Meredith and her husband, Greg, were planning to celebrate their 10th wedding anniversary in a few months with a massive, lavish vow renewal. Greg loved to brag about his supposed financial success at family dinners. But the reality was that they lived entirely on the edge of their credit card limits. 4 months ago, Meredith had called me in tears because their absolute dream venue and exclusive country club estate required a massive upfront deposit that they simply didn't have. As her mother, I did what I had always done. I quietly solved the problem to keep the peace. I paid the $35,000 for the venue. I signed the contract under my own name because, honestly, they are a total disaster when it comes to administrative details. I told them to consider it an early gift and to stop stressing. I pulled up the digital contract on my screen and scrolled down to the cancellation policy, full refund, minus a $500 administrative penalty if canceled more than 90 days in advance. There were 110 days left. At 8 o'clock, My 16-year-old granddaughter, Hazel, walked through the front door. She stays with me about half the week because Meredith's house is always loud and chaotic with Greg's endless social climbing events. And Hazel prefers the quiet here. "Grandma, are you okay?" she asked, dropping her backpack onto the couch. "I'm just fine, sweetheart," I replied, slamming the laptop shut. Hazel looked me dead in the eye. "Mom called me. She said you were upset about some money. Grandma, is our trip to France canceled?" Hazel's voice trembled a bit. She had been practicing her French every single afternoon, absolutely bursting with excitement over the trip we had spent months planning together. "No," I said firmly. "It is absolutely not canceled." I was not going to let Meredith's entitlement crush my granddaughter's dream. I kissed Hazel on the forehead and told her to go get some rest. Once I was alone again, I reopened my email. It was time to balance the ledger. The email I drafted to the venue management was entirely transactional. No emotional outbursts, no family sob stories. Just straight business. To whom it may concern. My name is Vivian Vance, and I am the primary contract holder for the event scheduled for this coming October. I am requesting the immediate cancellation of this reservation and a full refund issued back to the original payment method, per your stated policy. Please confirm once this has been processed. I clicked send. My hands weren't shaking at all. Instead, a strange, profound clarity washed over me. For years, I had been plugging Meredith's financial leaks under the guise of keeping the harmony, thinking I was helping her. In reality, I had just taught her that my boundaries didn't exist. The next morning, I got up early and went straight to the bank. The branch manager ushered me into his office immediately. "I want Meredith Vance removed from absolutely every single one of my accounts," I told him, handing over my ID. "Was there an issue with the joint ownership, Mrs. Vance?" he asked, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "She made an unauthorized withdrawal from my savings. I want to block any future access permanently." In less than 20 minutes, Meredith was completely wiped from my financial existence. I changed all my passwords, closed the shared account, and moved every dime into a brand new sole account that only I could touch. On my way home, I stopped by the local hardware store. I bought brand new deadbolts for my house. Meredith had a spare key for emergencies. Well, there wouldn't be any more emergencies for her to exploit. I installed the new locks myself before noon, just as I was testing the front door to make sure it latched perfectly. My phone chimed. It was an email from the venue coordinator. "Hi, Vivian. We have successfully processed your cancellation. The refund of $34,500 will reflect on your card within the next 48 hours. A small smile crept onto my face. I took a screenshot and saved the file. Now. It was only a matter of time before the shockwave hit my daughter's house. The next 2 days passed in total tranquility. Hazel kept coming over to study, completely oblivious to the hurricane brewing on the horizon. I used a portion of the refund that had already hit my account to book 2 plane tickets to Paris. First class. The money was locked down. On Thursday afternoon, I was in the kitchen chopping vegetables for a soup when my phone started ringing. It was Meredith. I let it ring 3 full times before answering in a calm, measured voice. "Mom!" Her voice was shrill, practically hovering on the edge of hyperventilation. "What did you do?" I kept right on dicing carrots. "What are you talking about?" "Meredith. The venue coordinator just called me. She said the event is canceled. She said the contract holder pulled the plug and demanded a refund. Tell them it was a mistake." "Mom, please. The anniversary invitations are literally at the printer right now. I set the knife down on the cutting board and wiped my hands on a towel. It wasn't a mistake. I canceled the contract. There was a dead, suffocating silence on the other end of the line. All I could hear was my daughter's ragged breathing. "Why would you do something like that?" she demanded, her tone instantly morphing from panic to pure rage. "It's my 10th anniversary. You are going to completely humiliate us in front of Greg's entire family. You withdrew $4,500 from my account without my permission," I reminded her, keeping my voice dead steady. "Since you left me short on my own savings, I had to liquidate cash from wherever I could find it. The venue deposit was my money, so I took it back. It was $4,500, Mom, not $35,000. She screamed. "The principle is exactly the same. Meredith, you told me I had plenty of time. Well, now you have plenty of time to find a new venue and pay for it with your own money. You can't do this to me. Greg's mother already bought an insanely expensive dress for this party." "That sounds like a you problem, not a me problem," I replied quietly, and hung up the phone. I immediately went into my settings and silenced all notifications from her number. 10 minutes later, I heard the roar of Meredith's car engine as she slammed on the brakes right in front of my house. A moment later, I heard the familiar, frantic scraping of her old key jamming uselessly into my brand new lock. The metallic rattling at the front door sounded completely desperate. Meredith tried to force the key in, ripped it out in frustration, cursed loudly, and tried again. I stood quietly in the hallway, watching the entire scene unfold through the frosted glass of the door. When she finally realized the lock wasn't going to budge, she started pounding on the wood with her fist. "Mom, open the door. I know you're in there." I turned the deadbolt and swung the door open calmly, but I planted myself right in the center of the frame, physically blocking the entryway. Meredith's face was bright red with fury. She tried to take a step inside, but I didn't move an inch. "You changed the locks?" she asked, staring at me as if she didn't even recognize me. Yes, I did. People who clean out my bank accounts don't get open access to my home. "I didn't steal from you," she yelled, casting a nervous glance back at the street to see if any of the neighbors were watching. "I'm your daughter. It was a loan. You ask for a loan, Meredith. You don't take it behind my back. You ruined my anniversary over a temper tantrum." She pointed a trembling finger at my face. "Greg is absolutely livid. You need to call that venue right now and pay them back. I demand that you fix this." I looked her up and down. I didn't see the little girl I had raised. I saw an entitled adult woman who had learned to use guilt as a weapon to evade any shred of personal responsibility. "There is nothing to fix," I said coldly. "The money is back where it belongs. My trip to France is fully paid for. Whatever you choose to do about your anniversary is entirely up to you and your husband." "Hazel," Meredith suddenly shrieked, leaning over my shoulder to yell into the house. "Hazel, get out here right now. We're leaving." I knew she would try to use her daughter as a bargaining chip. Hazel slowly walked down the hallway, clutching her French textbook to her chest. She looked at her mother, then she looked at me. You could have cut the tension in the air with a knife, and Meredith stood there fully expecting Hazel to fall in line without question. Hazel stood right beside me, looking at her mother with a level of maturity that Meredith sorely lacked. "I'm not leaving. Mom," Hazel said. Her voice was quiet, but it didn't waver. Meredith blinked, completely thrown off script. "What did you just say? I am your mother, and I am telling you to pack your things." Your grandmother has lost her mind. I have a huge exam tomorrow, and I can actually study in peace here. The girl replied. And Grandma hasn't lost her mind. You took her money. The money for our trip. Meredith's face flashed from outrage to deep embarrassment in a fraction of a second. She had clearly assumed I would hide the ugly details of the cancellation from Hazel. Hazel, you don't understand adult financial matters. Meredith stammered, trying and failing to soften her tone. I understand that you took $4,500 to buy a birthday gift for Grandma Beverly, the same woman who barely even acknowledges me when I'm in the room. Hazel fired back. I'm staying with Grandma Vivian. Without waiting for a response, Hazel turned right around and walked back into the living room. Meredith stood on the porch, her mouth slightly open, completely speechless. She had just lost her primary tool for manipulation. I suggest you go home and talk to Greg about how you're going to fund your own party, I said, putting my hand on the doorknob. You're going to pay for this, Mom. The entire family is going to hear about what you did. You are humiliating me. Let them hear it. I have absolutely nothing to hide. I closed the door right in her face and threw the new deadbolt into place. Walking back to the kitchen, I felt an incredibly strange sense of lightness. For years, I had swallowed my own pride and anger just to avoid friction. Today, I finally learned that family love does not mean financing your own disrespect. That night, I turned off my phone and slept like a baby, completely unaware that the real storm would arrive the very next morning. The next day, around noon, I was out front trimming the hedges when a luxury SUV pulled up and parked along the curb. It was Beverly, Meredith's mother-in-law. She stepped out of the vehicle, adjusting a pair of oversized designer sunglasses, and marched up to my garden gate with her usual air of supreme superiority. Vivian, you are practically impossible to get a hold of, she called out from the sidewalk, clearly expecting me to unlatch the gate for her. I left it locked. I walked over to the barrier, keeping my gardening shears firmly in hand. What can I do for you, Beverly? She offered a patronizing smile. I came to mediate this little family spat. Meredith told me you got terribly offended because she took a small loan out of your account. It's a family matter. Vivian, there's really no need to be so resentful and ruin the kid's big milestone over a total trifle. A trifle. I looked her dead in the eye. Meredith went behind my back and raided my hard-earned savings just to buy you that Mediterranean cruise you were bragging about all over Facebook yesterday. Beverly's lips tightened, her polished smile faltering just a bit. It was a beautiful gesture on her part. And Greg is under an immense amount of stress right now. Tell you what, I will personally reimburse you the $4,500 today. In exchange, you call the country club, put the $35,000 back down, and we can all put this silly drama behind us. I let out a short, genuine laugh. Do you honestly think you can buy my compliance for $4,500? I asked. The money I pulled back from that venue belongs to me. If you care so much about your son's party, you pay for it. You've already got a free cruise out of my pocket anyway. Beverly's face hardened beneath her heavy makeup. You are actively destroying your own family. Vivian, Meredith will never forgive you for this. I don't need her forgiveness. I'm just cleaning up my space. Have a wonderful day. Beverly, I turned my back on her and went right back to my hedges while she stormed back to her car in a fury. Not even 2 hours after she left, a courier on a motorcycle pulled up and handed me an urgent, certified envelope. I took the thick envelope inside, sat down at the dining table, and slid it open. Inside was a cashier's check for exactly $4,500 made out to my name, signed by Greg. There was also a handwritten note from Meredith. "Mom, here is your money. I am incredibly sorry about Hazel's trip. Please rebook the venue. Greg is on the verge of calling off the entire party because our credit cards are completely maxed out and we don't have the credit line to cover it. Please don't do this to me." I stared at the check. It was precisely what she had stolen from me. Not a single penny more. Meredith truly believed that returning stolen funds only under extreme duress was a heroic act that somehow earned her a reward of $35,000 to save her social reputation. I walked down to Hazel's room, where she was reviewing her French vocabulary on her laptop. "Take a look at this," I said, dropping the check onto her desk. Hazel looked at it. "They actually gave you the money back. Greg did. I'm guessing the sheer terror of public humiliation from losing his party was a fantastic motivator. Are you going to pay for the venue now, Grandma?" Hazel asked, looking at me cautiously. I shook my head. "No." I pulled a much smaller envelope out of my pocket and handed it to her. "Open this instead." Hazel opened it slowly. Her eyes widened to the size of saucers when she saw the printed first-class flight confirmations and the luxury hotel reservations in Paris. "We're still going to France," she squealed, leaping out of her chair to throw her arms around my neck. "Of course we are. Exactly the way we planned it." That afternoon, I went to the bank drive-thru and deposited Greg's check. Then, I sent one final text message to Meredith's phone. "Money received? The debt to my savings is settled. My decision regarding the venue stands. Do not ask me for money ever again." I blocked her number right after sending it. I had drawn a line in the sand, and nobody was going to cross it. Yet, late that evening, Greg showed up on my porch holding a box of expensive pastries from a local bakery. I didn't open the front door. Instead, I walked out through the side garden gate and met him at the fence, keeping the locked iron bars securely between us. "Vivian," he said, forcing a chummy smile as he held up the bakery box. "Look, I came by to apologize on behalf of Meredith. I already sent you the trip money back. I was hoping we could sit down and talk business about the venue." "There is no business to talk about." "Greg." "Vivian, come on, please. Meredith is completely hysterical. My mother is furious. If you don't pay for the estate, we're going to have to throw this party in our own backyard. It is going to be an absolute embarrassment in front of all my co-workers." I looked at him without an ounce of pity. "Your lifestyle is not my responsibility. You two decided to rob me because you figured I would just take it lying down. You figured wrong. I gave you back the $4,500. He barked, his polite mask completely slipping away to reveal his desperation. "I need you to pay for this party." And that right there is the difference between you and me. Greg, you need my wallet to pretend to be someone you're not. I don't need your respect, because I already respect myself. Take your pastries and go home. I turned around and walked away. "You're dead to us." "Vivian," he screamed from the sidewalk. "You will never see Meredith again. Do you hear me? I accept those terms." I called back without turning around. Once I was inside, I shut the blinds tightly. Weeks flew by. Meredith tried to reach out a couple of times through mutual family members and posted passive-aggressive quotes on her social media pages about mothers who abandon their children. I didn't engage. I ignored her entirely. I threw all my energy into packing. Hazel and I bought beautiful new winter coats and meticulously planned our daily itineraries. The house felt incredibly light, entirely freed from the constant, heavy demands I had grown so accustomed to carrying. Before I knew it, the morning of our flight arrived. Our bags were lined up by the front door, and the Uber was waiting for us outside. The airport was packed, but we breezed through security without a care in the world. As we settled into our massive, plush, first-class seats on the plane, Hazel looked over at me with an enormous, radiant smile. "Thank you, Grandma. Thank you for not letting them take this away from us." Nobody is ever taking anything away from us again. My girl. Mid-flight, I logged into the plane's Wi-Fi. A small part of me was curious. I opened up Beverly's public social media profile and saw the photos from Meredith and Greg's grand vow renewal. It wasn't at the country club estate. It was held in their patchy backyard. Meredith was wearing a dress that looked ridiculously formal and out of place for the setting, and the decorations consisted of cheap, obviously rushed, floral arrangements. The smiles in the photos were incredibly stiff and strained. Meredith looked directly at the camera with a profound mixture of exhaustion and bitter defeat. In almost every single picture, Greg's eyes were pinned directly to the ground. Their grand social event had been brutally reduced to the actual reality of their own bank account. I closed the app. I didn't feel any pity, but I didn't feel any malicious triumph either. I just felt the immense, beautiful peace of a person who has finally dropped a weight that was never theirs to carry. We landed in Paris under a brilliant, cloudless, blue sky. The next few days were absolute magic. We wandered through the cobblestone streets of Montmartre, ate pastries by the Seine, and Hazel practiced her French with the local waiters, her confidence growing with every single meal. One afternoon, while we were sitting at an outdoor cafe with a perfect view of the Eiffel Tower, my phone vibrated in my purse. It was a text message from Meredith from a completely new number, Mom. We had to sell the SUV just to pay off the debts from the party. Greg is being completely unbearable. I need you. A few months ago, I would have replied in a heartbeat. I would have wired the cash and spent sleepless nights trying to fix her life for her. Not today. I tapped the screen off, slid the phone deep into my purse, and took a slow, quiet sip of my coffee. The unlimited access to my life had been permanently revoked, and for the very first time, I had all the time in the world.